So the metaverse is definitely something that who knows how long it'll be. And when I hate saying the metaverse, because there is no the metaverse, there are metaverses, and there's no one thing, and who knows what there will be in the future. But the metaverse, I don't think is the proper term. And then you got things that are rising up these days. AI, a lot of what you're going to see with our project is doing things that are going to be AI driven. But the big thing I want to talk about here, and what Don had talked about, is what some people coin Web3. Another term that I'm not too nuts about, because Web3 to me is the promise of a user-controlled internet. That's the way I see it. It's an internet where the end user is in full control. Again, money, communication, and identity, those three things, those three pillars. Those that don't know, Web3 was coined by Gavin Wood, fellow co-founder of Ethereum. You had Web 1, Web 2 we talked about in the 2010s, and the idea of Web 3 is how can we get out of the Web 2 models, get away from these extractive models, the models where people are feeling like they're not in control, models where you have this vicious cycle of VCs and you have these systems that are just not, people are not happy with, and people do not feel that they are in control. So to me, I like to term it as a user-controlled internet. And these three things, metaverse not so much, but what we'll be presenting is going to have tie-ins to these, along with tie-ins to every single thing I've talked about so far. Because what the internet needed to get off the ground is what the decentralized internet or the user-controlled internet needs to get off of the ground in terms of things like interfaces. I equate interfaces to the wallets. I equate the browsers to the wallets. The browsers were ways to people to share information. Wallets are now a way to share value. Okay, so this technology for a user-controlled internet needs the browser, which are the wallets. And this is why I started building wallets 10 years ago. Because it was a recognition, just like with browsers, that they are going to be the interface for the average person in order to navigate this space. Then you have things like infrastructure. You had cloud services that emerged in the 2000s. AWS had a need. For those that don't know, AWS is a cloud service system by Amazon. Amazon had a problem back in the 2000s where they wanted to expand out websites for their customers, but there was no technology or service providers out there to handle the needs that they had as this massive Goliath of a book company. And years before Google got into the mix, years before Microsoft got into the mix, AWS said, we have this need and we're going to build it ourselves because it doesn't exist out there. And now AWS is the leader out there because they got in and realized where things are going to be heading. But their model of cloud services, or the models that they bring to the table, are considered, to me, Web 2 models. They are models where you pay a fee, your website gets hosted on their server, their system, but now you're beholden to them as a trusted third-party intermediary. So they are an infrastructure provider that potentially, should they decide to squeeze out more profits or to serve their, and I don't want to necessarily target them, I want to target that type of thinking whereby you become beholden to this machine, or people become beholden to these companies that are trying to advance the shareholder returns month after month, and it usually comes at the expense of the users, and the users eventually not get happy the way things going or feeling they're not in control. And that type of model is something that does not work in a user-controlled internet. So, every project starts out with, or should start out with, identifying a problem that you want to solve, and hopefully something that is big enough out there that if you can put the pieces together, there's going to be a great impact in what you're doing. And I think that's what happened when we did things with Ethereum. Now, what I'm seeing a problem with, and I'm seeing a problem with technologies like Ethereum, is that a large swath of the infrastructure that is being built and is being used right now to support Ethereum is being run by centralized systems. The infrastructure that is running projects out there for Ethereum, it's something like 90% or a very large percentage are being run on systems like AWS. They're being run, and I don't want to be really, again, knocking AWS, but because they are the largest provider out there. Over 50% of Ethereum infrastructure is being run on AWS right now. And that's a problem. The promise of Ethereum is a decentralized internet. It's empowering individuals and people to not be beholden to third-party trusted intermediaries. But what happens when this infrastructure is being run on these intermediaries and something happens with them, or they are told by regulators they can't do something, or they decide tomorrow that they're not allowing any more Ethereum nodes to be used on AWS? And that is a massive problem for Ethereum. Nodes, for those that don't know, are kind of the lifeblood of decentralized technologies. The more nodes there are, the more robust the systems are. The more nodes there are, the more the more reliable the systems are. If one goes down, it doesn't matter because there's many there. But what's happened right now and the way it's been set up is that these cloud service providers and infrastructure providers are making it super simple for people to build on top of their systems so that nodes are on a decline. People are not running their own nodes anymore. Not that they're not running them anymore, but they never really were doing them much to begin with, because running a node like a Bitcoin node or an Ethereum node is complicated, requires a lot of technical savvy, and there's no incentive mechanism to run a node. So instead, companies are relying on these third-party providers, cloud service providers, that are making it super simple for them to build. But what happens when they need to abide by a government mandate or a regulatory mandate that says you can't allow a transaction to be sent to this address? How does that enable decentralization for Ethereum when they now need to block addresses? So there's a decline of nodes that is happening right now, and more is being centralized into similar Web 2 models. And this is a problem that I've more identified over the last year, and is becoming more and more that I see of an issue. And it's kind of the core element of what it is that we're putting together here with Andiami.